All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Todd Tucky. I'm president of the Greater Barrie Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. Before I get started, I'd like to ask our interim executive director.
Well, hopefully you stop talking. Hi, it's Paul Markle. Welcome to our new panelists. Welcome to Kelly, new on our panel this week. Thank you very much for joining us. We're excited to hear what's happening with the Downtown BIA. A couple of things coming up. We had a really successful golf tournament since our last town hall. So we had 158 golfers out. Everyone was socially distanced. It was a great event. Nice to see people. They were really excited to have some contact. Up and coming, we have the Accelerate Summit, which is October 20th to 23rd. Chamber members can save 20% if they go on and register now. So we'd like to see you do that. If you're not a chamber member, well, join up and we'll give you that 20% discount. And just give us an email to the chamber and we'll give you that code. But without taking too much time, I'll give it back to Todd. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Paul. So schools are now open, allowing more parents to return to work and hopefully helping our economy to get back on track. We are, of course, all being vigilant and watching what the impact will be on the numbers and continuing our social distancing practices. As we know, the situation continues to evolve daily, and the task of guiding Canadians through COVID-19 is far from over. The government is still actively seeking input to ensure that the needs are met and to address issues faced by various sectors and our communities. Discussions like this are a critical part of communicating with our locally elected officials, ensuring that they're able to represent our community's needs in regional, provincial, and national discussions. In a moment, I will introduce each of our panelists, and then I will ask them for a brief update from their particular level of government. After that, we will proceed directly to the Q&A session. We did accept some questions in advance of today's Q&A, but we encourage you to submit yours as well. To submit a question, please choose the Submit Question to Moderator option within your Zoom platform, and I will reach out and ask those questions to our panelists. So this morning, we're going to start at the top here. I'd like to welcome our MP, Barrie Innisfil, John Broussard. Morning, John.
Hey, Todd. Good morning, everyone. Paul, Barrie, and Kelly, good to see you. I think this is the first time you've been on one of these calls, Kel. Is that right?
That's it.
Yeah, good. I think this is my 7th. Or 8th. I know Doug and I, Shipley, are sort of balancing the two. He's on 1 week, I'm on the next. I'm coming to you from Ottawa this morning. The House of Commons has resumed sitting, and it did last week. It's doing it in a hybrid fashion, which means that there are MPs in the chamber and MPs that are on virtually. All of the votes are taking place in a hybrid fashion as well, and they're taking a little more time than usual. Usually the votes take about 8 minutes, but we've got it down to at least an hour now. So hopefully we don't end up with all-night voting near the end of the session, or else it's going to be something else. But the big news this week was the unanimous support in the House of Commons for the passage of Bill C4. C4 extends significant benefits, the cost of which is about $57 billion. Up to $65 billion. And I'll read from the bill itself, just so that I don't miss anything, that the Canada Recovery Benefit is going to be the transition from the CERB. It'll provide up to $500 per week for up to 26 weeks to workers who are self-employed, who are not eligible for EI. The Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit is also part of this piece of legislation. That'll provide $500 per week for up to 2 weeks for workers who are sick or must self-isolate for reasons related to COVID-19. We did have a lot of questions about that particular portion, in particular how it affects the provincial labor codes and the federal labor codes. So it'll be interesting to see how that one rolls out. But the third part of this piece of legislation was a Canada Recovery Caregiving Benefit, which will provide up to $500 per week for up to 26 weeks per household for eligible Canadians unable to work because they must care for children or a high-risk dependent who can't attend school. So that passed with unanimous support, all party support. There are some questions, as I said, as it relates to the rollout of these programs. And I'm hoping that the government will answer some of those questions, because I know for a lot of small businesses, it'll cause some concern, particularly the encroachment on the provincial territory, if you will, on the sick leave program, which most labor codes are covered under provincial authority. And Doug may be able to speak to that a little bit later. From my standpoint, the big issue that's really coming up now is the issue of rapid testing. We've seen, and I spoke about this in the House yesterday, as Paul knows, 12 of our allies and similar countries who have approved rapid testing a long time ago. And they've got that capability now. Now, just this week, the government did approve a rapid test, but unfortunately, according to news reports that broke last night, according to Health Canada, that rapid test will not be available for several months here in Canada. And I'm aware that there are other rapid tests that are in front of Health Canada right now, particularly one that provides a response within 3 minutes that's been approved by the European Union, which has the most stringent testing regime in the world, and the US FDA under emergency use standards. And there's a Barrie distributor who is working on that, and I've been working with him to try to get that approval through Health Canada. And it's, as I said, it's a 3-minute test. I've taken it twice, and it's, you know, listen, rapid testing is critical for us, not just to open up our economy and keep it open, but also there are many families right now that are standing in line for hours and hours on end, waiting to get tested, and then waiting days to get the results. And I know that because my office is in one of the facilities that is a testing center, and I see the lineups around the parking lot and around the building. So we have to get on rapid testing, and it has to be done quickly for the sake of our economy, our businesses, the people that they employ, the products that they produce as well. And as a result of being in that facility, our office is still closed, Todd. And the reason is because we don't want people walking into our office, but we do have staff. My staff are working, they're there, they're available to help our constituents and our businesses if they need any information. And we are taking appointments in our office, one-on-one appointments, but they have to be booked ahead of time. So it's really, again, a pleasure to be here with you this morning. That's the latest news from Ottawa. We're expecting an announcement this morning from the government for hundreds of millions of more dollars in business support to be put through the regional development agencies and through the community futures organizations, which are going to help small and rural businesses. I've not heard anything about the rent relief program being extended. As you know, that ended on September 30th. And for many businesses that fall under the Chamber's umbrella, I'm sure that creates and it created a lot of anxiety for them in their ability to pay rent. So as soon as I hear something, I will put it out, and the information will be available. But as of yet, I've not heard anything on an extension of the rent relief program for any small and medium-sized businesses. So that's my report. I'll be glad to answer any questions if anybody has any, but I appreciate the time again, and thank you to the Chamber for having me on this morning.
Thank you, John. All right, up next, our Attorney General and MPP, Barrie, Springwater, Oro-Medonte, Doug Downey. Morning, Doug.
Morning. Good morning, Todd. How's the sound quality? Is it
perfect?
We're okay?
You're good.
All right. So glad to be here. And Andrea Kanjan sends her regrets. She probably may not want me saying this, but she's getting married on Sunday. And I said, you know, I think you should spend your time there. Well, John and I'll carry the ball. So here I am. I'm going to touch on a few things that John was just talking about. They do dovetail nicely, provincial, federal. I'm going to go right to the rapid testing piece. We have been pounding the table for this. We don't know what the holdup is in Ottawa. And when I say Ottawa, I don't mean John. I mean, they're pounding with us. It's a game changer. We have to get that rapid testing in place. It should be Health Canada's #1 priority. So yeah, we stand with you on, John. Yeah, the Abbott test, I think, is the one that was recently announced, but there's other kinds out there. So we're looking at options. Our testing capacity right now, we're running about 40,000 a day, which if you think back to March when we first started into this pandemic, we were doing about 3,000 to 4,000 a day. We're up to 40,000. We're going to get up to 80,000. We're expanding lab capacity. That's one of the choke points at the moment. And so we're dealing with that. The reagent itself is a limited commodity. And so there's always one piece of the puzzle that falls behind the others. And so we're working on that piece to get the testing up and get the testing through. We need it not just happening, we need it happening quickly so that we can identify, contain, and trace. And as we've all been talking about for some time. Another piece, again, in coordination with the feds, it's a conversation that happens on a regular basis with the borders. And whether that's the borders with Quebec or the borders with the US, it's a constant conversation about how that works. And I won't happy to answer some questions on that, but I just wanted to flag it. We've done a few things. You heard the Premier yesterday talking about PSWs and some more extended pay, trying to encourage the front lines. I mean, they're doing such amazing work. All the front line are doing incredible work. And quite frankly, in my mind, I think about the people, not just in the trenches like the PSWs, but all the store clerks, all the people who are dealing with people every single day. There's an anxiety for them that they're dealing with volumes of people. And so we're trying to put some supports in place for them as well. Same as the federal local offices, we've kept our offices here running. The staff are working here, but doors are locked. If you need an appointment, we can do something, but it's by call only. Business supports, yeah, again, we're anticipating some stuff coming. Rent relief did just end, as John mentioned, but some lessons learned from that. I anticipate what you'll see coming out in the next short while will be things that may operate differently. Things like having to go through the landlord, that was a challenge. We all heard that. So I think you'll see something a little more appropriate. It's a shame it's not in place already as the rent relief finishes, but there are many levels to this, and so people are working at some speed. Some things are working well. Some things are working really well. Our court system, I mean, it's something that I'm dealing with every single day. Just, the Superior Court. So we have three levels of court in Ontario. We have the Ontario Court of Justice, the Superior Court, and the Court of Appeal. The Superior Court alone has done 50,000 Zoom hearings since March. So it's significant. And in terms of remand, so we talk about bail and remand, every single remand for somebody in custody is happening by Zoom. And now, as of 2 weeks ago, every single out of custody remand is happening by Zoom. What that means is we're not putting 50 and 100 people in a courtroom for what can be a 15-minute hearing. So there are parts of our system that are working well, and some parts are learning from other parts. I'm sure we're going to get questions about schools, so I don't need to preempt that, except to say we have the highest standard, in the country in terms of PPE and busing and all of those pieces. We're reinvesting millions of dollars. And there's a piece in the paper this morning, in the Barrie paper, about the Catholic Board and how they've innovated and moved some parts around and got some class sizes down by using some of the reserves. It's really, really a good news story and the kind of partnership that we were talking about when we first launched it. So I'm going to stop there. I could go on all day. There's so many things going on, Todd, but I'm going to stop because I do want to get to the questions. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Doug. Appreciate that. All right. Up next from the City of Barrie, Deputy Mayor Barrie Ward. Morning, Barrie.
Good morning. Thank you, Todd and Paul, for inviting me again, and have welcome to my fellow panelists. I'm only going to touch on a couple of subjects this morning, and because of the cool weather being here, fortunately, none of them involve waterfront parking for once. So we had as you might know, a week ago, we had an emergency motion at council a week ago Monday to say that the Barrie police station, the old police station on Sperling Drive, was for sale. We put a halt to the sale for now and gave it to the RVH to use as a rapid testing testing for COVID-19 at no charge, and they moved with amazing speed. It was open by the following Monday. I mean, quite impressed. And they moved because they were having operational problems. The lineups for the testing were causing some operational problems at the RVH, so they needed a new site. So the police station on Sperling Drive is now open for testing. The other area I wanted to touch on was that this week we launched our public consultation for our new official plan. And this is very important for Barrie residents. I mean, it's the planning for the next, well, 20 till 241 and probably till 251 now that we've had some revisions from the provincial government. So it's how Barrie's going to look. There's two parts of it. One is the official plan, which talks about how Barrie land is going to be used for the next 30 years. And that's very important for the public to say what they want to see in it. It's a 250-page document. It's easy reading. There are lots of maps and photos, so it's not quite as daunting as it might seem. And it tells what Barrie should look like in the next 30 years, how we should develop. And along with that comes the urban design guidelines, another 250-page document, which talks about how that Barrie will look, you know, in terms of buildings over the next 30 years. I'd really encourage residents to go to the city's website, download the document, take a look at it, and submit their comments. They have until December 20th to submit their comments. This is the public consultation stage. There'll be more public consultation in the future in terms of public meetings. Hopefully we'll be able to do them in person next year. Yeah, and it's anticipated the document will be approved by council sometime next fall, so in about a year's time. But before December 20th, we're asking the public to get their comments in as to what Barrie should look like. Buildingbarrie.ca is the website where the document can be found. The only things I wanted to touch on were just mentioned, the city's looking for applications for its anti-racism task force. Culture days are now on. I'm not sure if Kelly's going to mention those. And we had the unveiling of the Oran in the Heart still called Memorial Square, showing my age, in Meridian Square last Saturday. If you haven't get a chance to look at it, it's quite an impressive sculpture. Done completely, I keep stressing this, done completely with public donations. Public raised $100,000, including $50,000 from a family who's Bob Hunter, who's that sculpture is meant to memorialize. And that's about it for me. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Barry. Appreciate the update. Up next from Downtown Barrie, BIA, Kelly McKenna. Welcome, Kelly, to your first virtual meeting with us.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, so downtown has some very exciting stuff happening over our autumn season. We are inviting Barrie residents to come down to Dunlop Street, ride their bikes, walk along the street. It's closed to traffic and just open to open air. So open air Dunlop is happening every Saturday until October 17th. We had our last Saturday was our first of closing the street down. It was very well received. We had families down here walking their kids, pushing their buggies, walking the dogs, grabbing a cup of coffee, just enjoying the Heart and Horn installation, our new public art installation. And over the coming 4 Saturdays, we're just going to continue on with that arts and culture theme. We've got some fabulous murals going up in our downtown this coming Saturday, and we're going to have artists in the business. So whether the artist paints the window, or maybe they're in the window conducting their art, or their art might just be hanging on one of the walls in the businesses down here. Part of that economic recovery plan for our downtown is really to encourage people to shop local, come down and enjoy the new streetscape. It really is beautiful. The city has invested a lot of money in creating wider sidewalks. There's lovely tree accents and cobblestones, places to lock your bike up. Downtown Barrie really has a new feel, and we're encouraging everyone to come down and check it out on Saturdays.
Excellent. Thank you, Kelly. All right, we're now going to proceed to the Q&A portion of our meeting here. So just a reminder to submit a question. Please choose the option within your Zoom platform, type out the question, and I will ask it of our panelists. With that, we will slide right into the very first question, which is, daycares are excluding children who are asymptomatic if any household member has a cold. Parents are still expected to pay for the missed days. It took 4 days for our results to come back in, and I was unable to work, but was still required to pay for missed days until our negative test came back. The SCDSB says asymptomatic children were able to attend. Why is this not the same case for daycares?
Yeah, so I'll jump in on that. I mean, I'll answer both parts or address both parts, but the first part is a perfect example of why testing needs to get faster. You know, if you had that 15-minute or 5-minute test, it would again be a game changer. So I really do anticipate the feds have to know. They have to know that this is a top priority, and they need to get it done. And we're seeing it in Europe. We're seeing it in other jurisdictions. It just has to happen. But the other part, in terms of why not align the daycares in the same way that the schools are, the schools have a couple of levels. They have the public health directive, and then they have the school board itself. And so the school board's taking direction from. The daycares aren't necessarily, depending on the daycare, I don't know if it's a private or what it is. Unfortunately, if the contract is that you pay, then you're stuck. But we put very generous tax credits in place in last year's budget as it relates to childcare, and so we're trying to help ease the burden for parents who are dealing with childcare. Obviously, not designed to address this particular piece, but overall in terms of what you spend. Really hope this ends when the rapid testing is upon us.
Perfect. Paul?
They've made some adjustments with the requirements out west. Any plans for that to happen in Ontario?
You mean in terms of the school?
Well, in terms of the symptoms. So, you know, I think they're basically only telling you to stay home if you've got a fever, or there's a handful, rather than a bucket full of symptoms that make that impact. Yeah,
as it relates to the schools, we have at the moment a bit of a different standard than BC does. I can't give away anything except to say that we're well aware of it. I talked to Mr. Lecce as recently as yesterday, and yeah, we're watching all the other jurisdictions and stay tuned.
Okay. Up next, this is probably right at you, Mr. Ward. Are we able to access the change rooms for swimming pools at city facilities yet? With the weather getting colder, leaving the pool damp won't be possible for much longer.
I may be wrong, but I understood that the family change rooms, which have the cubicles that people can change in, were open. But I have not been in the pool myself since this happened, so I can't say for certain, but I've been told by a swimmer who goes regularly, that they can use the family change rooms. I hope that's true. If they want to send me an email, I can double check, but at barryward@barrie.ca.
Yeah, and if we can get that from you, Barry, then the chamber will post it also so that everybody knows.
Okay.
Kelly, next one is straight at you. It says, Kelly, have the downtown businesses seen any pickup in sales with pedestrians? And it's mostly pedestrians, so I assume they're probably meaning with the changes on the weekend.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've had quite a bit of feedback from our businesses dropping in the office, or we have surveyed them as well, and everything was extremely positive after this past Saturday. Just anecdotally, one of our shops came in, she said it was the best day she's had since pre-COVID. So yes, pedestrianization has certainly helped bring people back downtown, and has been a really positive thing for our businesses, and they just want to see more of it. So another 3 Saturdays to go. We just hope Mother Nature keeps being kind to us.
Well, tomorrow you've got that. It's going to be a little frosty, nothing but sun, but when you wake up in the morning, it's going to be 2 and feel like -1. So for those of you golfers like Paul, enjoy your day. All right, up next, the CECRA has now ended, and many Canadian businesses were unable to access the funding because of the way it was structured. Are there any plans to set up new funding programs with direct access to those tenants whose landlords did not or could not participate?
I think that's for me. Todd, I addressed that at the top. We haven't heard anything with respect to the rent relief program being extended. That's not to say that the government hasn't indicated that it will be coming up with some type of program. You know, since the program was announced, you know, the challenge with it is that it's been too prescriptive, and there's a big reliance on the landlords to make the application. And that's why we saw In relative terms to the scale of what the program could have been, we saw very little uptake in it because landlords found it too prescriptive. And as a result, most of the deals that were made were between the commercial landlord and the tenant, not because of the rent relief program, because commercial landlords didn't want to see their spaces empty. So they were working with tenants at that time. And so the program ended just 2 days ago. And we have always been proactively pushing the government to make sure that those payments go directly to the tenants. And that way they have leverage to negotiate with the landlords on the rent relief program. So my hope is that the government takes the advice of not just the opposition, and I'm not just talking about conservative opposition, I'm talking about all opposition parties. The chamber itself, I know, has been advocating for a different type of system with the rent relief program, as has the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. So the hope is that the government gets it right, make sure that the money flows directly to where it's needed, and that's the tenants, and let the tenants work with the landlord on coming up with some sort of system to allow for the rent relief to apply and be used in the manner in which it was intended.
All right, thanks, John. So, Doug, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just, the two parts of this, I totally agree with what John's saying, and there has been a push to say, let's make the program work the way that we got the feedback about. But I also just want to take 1 second to say, there have been some tremendous landlords in Barrie, and they've done things of their own free will for their tenants and for their community. And I just, the chamber plays a role for both sides of that discussion. And if people have a good experience, I would encourage them to let the chamber know, so that the positive actors get some due credit as well. It's been a tough go for everybody all around, but no, I hear you loud and clear on the challenges with that program.
Paul?
I guess a question for both Doug and John. We don't really collect a lot of data on, especially because of COVID. I mean, we just don't have the capacity. But we're getting a lot of questions as to what the uptick was in our area specifically. Do you have any of that data? Has there been any shifting in there? Is that something you could provide for us moving forward?
Yeah, I don't have any local data, Paul, but I can certainly find out through the ministry. But I know across Canada, the uptake was very small in comparative to what the program or what people could have actually taken advantage of the program was. I think there was, I don't even want to say the number, but it was, over 100,000 landlords that had applied and had been approved for the program. But by comparison, the number that were eligible, there were quite a few that didn't apply. And it's critical because, according to the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, there's roughly about 160,000 small and medium-sized businesses in this country. 14% of those businesses are on the brink of closing permanently if they haven't already. So that rent relief program is critical to ensuring the viability and sustainability of those small businesses and medium businesses to get them through this crisis. And I do want to say one thing that Doug talked about too. The local commercial real estate landlords have done a terrific job working with small businesses because, as I said, they don't want to see empty storefronts either. So they work very, very well. Some of them haven't applied for the rent relief program. Some have, and they haven't because it has been too prescriptive. But I'm hoping that it becomes a much easier process for not just the tenant but the landlord as well.
Okay, and another one back at you, John. I know the wage subsidy was extended through to the end of the year, to the end of December, and we're hearing from a lot of businesses that basically that rate now is what's keeping them afloat.
Yeah.
Do you know if there's any talk of extending that, or has it even come up yet?
Yeah, let me just, the wage subsidy, the government has indicated as well that it's going to be extended well into next year. And when I say next year, well into 2021, because they obviously realize the impact positively that the wage subsidy has had. And it was designed to keep that connection between the employer and the employee. So it's worked very, very well. There's been some adjustments to the wage subsidy over the period of time. Again, the chamber, the CFIB, the opposition has been pushing the government to recognize You know, some of the what's needed to ensure that that system is sustainable, whether it's a sliding scale on revenue. You know, as you know, the big concern was as people were coming out of the closures, they were still seeing a drop in revenue, but the drop in revenue caused them not to qualify for the wage subsidy. So some of those numbers have been adjusted properly to ensure that local businesses still have access to that wage subsidy to keep that connection with their employees as well. So it's been probably and arguably one of the best programs that has come out. It wasn't, when it was initially announced, enough, and there was a lot of pushback, and kudos to the Chamber, the CFIB, and we'll take some credit, as well should the NDP and the Bloc and the Greens, for pushing the government to make sure that that system was workable for employers.
Yeah, great, thanks, John. Hey, Kelly, this is probably more geared towards you. It's, what do you think the Christmas season in downtown Barrie might look like this year? Are many of the downtown stores online, so that if we can't shop there, we can still, we can still shop there if we can't go in person?
Yes, yeah. It's going to look a little different this year for sure. You know, I think the Christmas parade and all of what is usual is being relooked at. Obviously, we can't have crowds coming together. So those type of activities we are rethinking and relooking. But we will still have our Festival of Lights, so people can come downtown and see all the Christmas trees lit up in Meridian Square and across Heritage Park. We'll still do our window decorating contest down here. So again, a great place to just come and stroll and have a look at some of the Christmas stuff that is happening in our shops. We'll also have a tree lot this year. So if you're looking for your Christmas tree, you can still come downtown and get that as well. A lot of our stores have been transitioning to online during this time. So a lot of them have taken advantage of the COVID you know, reality to put their business online. It's expensive to do so. And so what we've been doing as well is helping our businesses have some e-commerce ability. And we created the Lifeline gift card. So you can go to downtownbarrie.ca and buy a gift card to any one of our businesses downtown. So you don't actually have to go in the shop. You can just go online and purchase a gift card for that shop. So yeah, looking forward to a little bit more of an online season of shopping, but certainly there'll be lovely things to do downtown as well to get you into the spirit.
Doug?
Yeah, just to build on that, you know, what Kelly's saying, there are supports there for businesses. If they don't know, contact Kelly or contact my office. You know, John's office will have info as well. We put out a digital Main Street support program to help people transition. The City of Barrie's put out some tools, some resources. So if you're thinking about it, it really will pay to ask, or obviously go to the Chamber. You guys are plugged into all of that. Just encourage people, if you know somebody. Look, I turned a key in a door and stood last line to get paid in a small business myself. You often don't even think about what supports are out there. You're just trying to get the job done. But there are supports for these things. Please ask.
Okay. And Doug, this one I'm sure is directed right at you. So last weekend, there was a huge car rally in Wasaga, and some of the participants commented on media that they don't care about the fines they might face. Are there going to be stricter penalties for this type of activity, perhaps impacting their licenses if it's something like a car rally?
Well, look, we're going to look at all tools. Here's what we don't want to have happen. We don't want to have to go backwards. We do not want to go back to a position. The businesses are already so frail, and some are really struggling. This is a team effort. We all have to do our part. And I can tell you, the house party business, we did increase the fines. If you're the host of a house party, and it may be the tenant, not necessarily the owner, but the host, you know, $10,000 minimum. And straight to court. So we're serious about this. We really have to do our part. It's like flu season. It's not whether I get the flu, it's whether I pass it on to somebody else. You know, we have to look out for our neighbors, and people just blatantly saying, I don't care.
Yeah.
Well, that's really not the kind of country we live in.
No. Okay, thanks, Doug. With the numbers climbing in our areas, will any regional closures also including travel restrictions so there isn't spread from region to region as they're open?
Yeah, that's tricky. As we talk about regionalism, we are watching the numbers very closely in terms of where, not just regionally where they're coming from, but where they're coming from within the region. Like what is causing it? You know, is it a particular activity? So we're being very granular about it. I have my third cabinet meeting this week in about an hour. We're on with the doctors all the time and doing the tracing. As we hit regionalism, to restrict travel is very tricky for a couple of reasons. One, with the border to the US, that quite frankly is the easiest. And we've seen, I would say, not as good a job there as could have been. I'll leave that for John to address if he wishes. Between provinces, it's tricky, partly because of resources. I mean, we have, I don't know how many, 15 border crossings with Quebec. With, you know, Manitoba, we have one. So that would be a little bit easier. But restricting travel within Ontario, that's really, really, I don't even know if it's practical. And then you get into the issue like we had in the summer, people saying, I pay taxes for that cottage. I have the right to go to this property that I own. I just think we need to be a little bit vigilant as people move around. We're going to see Thanksgiving. People are going to move around, but please, you know, if you have more than 10 people in a location and they're from more than 3 spots, just on a piece of paper, do the math on who's been in contact with who over the last week, over the last 2 weeks. We got to slow this thing down.
And from a federal standpoint, obviously, we've seen the extension of the border closure has already been announced to the end of October. You know, unless it's you know, not essential travel, you're not going to be allowed to cross at any land borders, and the reverse of that is true, that people aren't going to be able to come into this country. You know, that's causing a lot of anxiety for snowbirds as well right now, because many of them want to go down to Florida, still want to go down to Florida, but through land crossings, they're not going to be able to, at least at this point. So I fully expect that the government is going to extend beyond October the Canada-US border closure. There's still a regional bubble that exists in Eastern Canada. I think as of yesterday, I heard that the entire Maritime provinces have had just one case of COVID or announced just one case of COVID. So obviously they're doing a good job. If you do go to the Atlantic provinces, you're required to quarantine for 14 days. And I can tell you from my experience, my son going out to the University of PEI when he did in August, they called him every single day to make sure that he was quarantining. So they're taking it very, very serious. But I agree with Doug on a you know, less regional scale than the Atlantic provinces. How do you restrict people from driving within their own province? How do you know, just logistically and practically, how do you stop that? And I don't think people want that stop. But to Doug's point, it's a matter of being diligent and heeding the advice of public health officials to make sure that we don't spread the virus. But I expect, as I said earlier, that you're going to see an extension of the border restrictions, Canada-US border restrictions, to be extended.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the business here in Barrie, and I won't mention their name, but shortly after they were able to reopen, they just had a vast amount of people trying to get in for a particular service. And you had to show your ID. If you weren't from the region, they were blunt. You are not welcome at our shop. And it's in downtown Barrie. And, you know, I fully support that. You know, the issues are more vast in areas like the GTA and Ottawa and places like that. And we've got to do our best to control it. And I know it would be tough for any level of government to say, hey, you can't come here, you're not welcome here. And that's not really the message any business wants to set out. But also these business owners are trying to protect themselves, their staffs, contact of any case. So they're trying to do their best to limit it to local only. And, you know, it may be up to individual businesses to say, look, this is how we're going to operate, you know, if this thing really starts to take off again. I mean, The numbers yesterday dropped a little bit, but you know, we're certainly nowhere where we need to be with the numbers and the way they're going.
All of us,
Barrie,
all of us will agree too, Tom. I mean, we don't want, and I'm sure Doug can agree with this, we don't want a situation what's going on in Quebec right now, you know, where it's a code red situation where, you know, they've effectively shut down Montreal, Quebec City, and another region as of midnight last night. So none of us, there's no business in Ontario, there's no person in Ontario that would reasonably want to see that type of scenario happen again. And so we have to be smart about this for the sake of not just our own health, but the businesses in Ontario as well. Because I can tell you, in Montreal and Quebec, they're going to hurt. There's going to be a world of pain as a result of these additional closures.
Yeah, because yesterday they announced that there were 1,700 cases across the country, and over half was in Quebec, totaling 933. So they've certainly got to get it under control there, you know, and all provinces do. People just have to follow the rules, do what the local health units are asking you to do. I mean, it just makes sense. Will you agree or disagree? The health unit's there for a reason. You have to follow what they're asking. Okay, Barrie and Kelly, this is probably for you. Are there any marketing plans in the works to make Barrie a desirable travel destination when it is safe to do so? Tourism dollars can add a new revenue stream for small businesses.
Barrie, do you want to go first?
Just briefly, we're in the middle of a new master plan for tourism in the city of Barrie, which I'm not sure when the completion date, but it's got to be coming up because it's been underway for a year. It's been kind of sideswiped by the COVID-19 outbreak, but that strategy will certainly include ways to attract people to Barrie, ways to do it. So we'll see, but we are on it. I mean, it's a terrible time, and I don't think there's a rush to get the tourism strategy finished now because everything is changing so rapidly, but we are looking at that. We've hired an outside consultant who's been doing extensive consultation with the community as to what Barrie should be doing for tourism.
Yeah, and I think as far as the downtown goes, you know, what we're really looking at is Barrie residents are our tourists. You know, I'm sure there's lots of people who've moved to Barrie recently and they've never even seen the downtown and seeing that it's right on the waterfront and we have this beautiful lake, you know, right at the bottom of our street. So what we're looking at is really just inviting Barrie residents for the first time, maybe possibly, to come down and see their downtown and to take this time now because they're not going to the GTA or they're not traveling as much. Maybe they're working from home. And so, you know, come out and rediscover your city that you live in is really what we're trying to encourage in the downtown.
Great, thanks, Kelly. We're just going to change the way we normally do things. I'm going to ask John Broussard if he can give us his closing comments. John has to get into the house before 10. So, John, if you want to do a little wrap up there.
Thanks, Todd, and Doug will know I'm on house duty today, so you got to be there just before when the speaker comes in. You know, obviously things are changing rapidly. We've seen a spike and increase in the number of cases in Ontario and across Canada. And so my last words are, we've got to make sure that we're diligent, that we follow the advice of public health officials, Todd, because the last thing any of us want is another shutdown, similar to what's going on, as I said, in those regions in Quebec. We want to make sure that our economy is open and businesses can thrive and survive. And, you know, we can do our part. We can shop local. We can shop in downtown Barrie, and we can shop in local businesses in South End Barrie and in Innisfil. And, you know, we've been doing a lot of work in the promotion of shopping and supporting local businesses, and we want to make sure that we continue to do that. And to that end, I'm going to be doing a statement in the House just after 11 o'clock. It's the town of Innisfil's 200th anniversary. It's the first opportunity that I've had since COVID started in March to recognize that, and I'll be doing a statement. I know Andrea did one in the legislature back in June or so, but I'll be doing one this just shortly after 11 o'clock this morning. So again, thanks to the Chamber, Paul, Todd, everyone, Kelly, Doug, Barrie, and every one of the participants on here. I appreciate the opportunity to provide input on what's happening at the federal level. And if you need any help at all, please call our Barrie Innisfil constituency office at 705-726-5959. If there's any questions that come in, Todd, send them our way. We'll be glad to respond back to you in the meantime. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, John. Thanks for your support.
Thank you.
Just gonna do a little different angle here too. I want to read something that came in to the chat from one of our participants, and normally we don't go over to this side. This is usually the closed side, but I won't even say the name. But anyways, they said, just want to say thank you to all panelists. It's hard for everyone, especially charities, and you all have been doing the little things and trying new things. The movement forward is not at the speed we want, but it is forward. Thanks for your efforts. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, Kelly, at Open Air. So, you know, comments like that are great to see. People are recognizing that, you know, we are doing the right things. And
yeah, you know what? I'll throw his name out. That's Aaron from Aaron Lute from the Gildas Club. He's been coming to our chats and doing really great work up there under some really tough circumstances. So we appreciate the comments, Aaron, and thank you very much for everything you're doing up there.
Perfect. Okay, next one. Any progress on improving rural access to reliable internet? The limits on access to this tool for businesses and students is creating disparity in potential for success.
Absolutely. We've, the internet is now, well, look at us, right? What would we do without the internet? How would we communicate with everybody? It's now the backbone. It's the telephone line of the 50s. You know, when you used to be on a party line, that's our old dial-up. We got to get people up to broadband. We got to get the capacity. We have to, we put 150 million in. RFPs are out, and it hopefully will affect our area. There's great interest in our area by some of the proponents. I worked with them and supported them on their bids. So yeah, we have to do it. It's really, it's just a modern tool. So we're doing that. We're pushing the feds for more, of course. They put some money in, and it sounds like a big number, but it's for the entire country. We have to do more. This is minimal infrastructure like roads and bridges at this point. We have to do it.
Right. Okay, Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, so just on that question, Barry, I wonder if you could designate Commerce Park Drive as a rural area so we could get access to some of that money, because, I mean, Todd's been frozen with a face like this for about a half an hour, about 6 times through this thing, so that would be great. I'd love to have all my staff in on the internet at the same time.
Yeah, it's difficult.
You know, I got to tell you, this is true from my days when I was practicing real estate, because I was a real estate lawyer for a couple decades. And people now, when they go to buy a house, that's one of the first questions anymore. Like, they will give up natural gas, they'll give up other things, but they need their internet. That's where we are.
Yeah, never even thought of that. That's a good point, especially in the rural areas. It's like, yeah, it's got to be a tough one for real estate people right now. Because for the most part, you're going to say it's unreliable. I mean, right now I'm in the little village of Midhurst, and I am cutting in and out. I did pay my bill last month, so not really sure what's going on out here. But anyways, I know you touched on this one earlier, Doug, and I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyways because it's a question out there. It says, with Thanksgiving approaching, many families will be getting together. Will fines be given? And I think it's kind of an off question because, you know, families are families, whether it's Thanksgiving, whether it's Christmas or whatever, but if restrictions are in place, restrictions are in place, and they're there for a reason. So it doesn't base it on whether it's family or close friends or distant relatives or whatever. The numbers are the numbers. The province and the health unit have put in mandates in certain numbers. And to me, you know what? I think it would just sort of be an automatic thing that if you've got way too many people and it's discovered, you're likely to be fined.
Yeah, look, we don't direct the police or the bylaw, so they'll do the enforcement. And I can tell you, they've used a lot of discretion in educating people, but there are some situations where the education's already happened and now it's just defiance. They'll make decisions. I can't direct them. But look, we just want people to be safe. Just think about it for a minute. You're going to have families get together. My own family, if I were to participate, and I'm actually still debating whether I will go to my sister's and she's got a couple kids. One of them has a baby. My dad's like very mobile, but still elderly. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that mix. You know, I would feel terrible if something were to happen. So, you know, let's just use a little bit of caution. We're close to getting the rapid testing out there. I really hope. Again, it'll be a game changer. You know, most people are doing their part. And so just do it just a little while longer if we can.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? You've always got to look for the positive side of things. So for me personally, I look at the positive side of COVID as events like this coming up, Thanksgiving, and it's like, well, you get to choose which people in your family you're going to invite over because you're out, I like you better, so you're in.
Well, while he's frozen, I'm just going to say Mark Twain has a line, and he says there's something to be said about family because you can't write it down. There's an old Mark Twain line.
Exactly. Yeah, it appears it's very good. It appears that Mr. Tucky is frozen like the ghost of Midhurst. So I'll just continue on. We only have a minute or so here before we get going. But do you think the province or the city will put Halloween restrictions for trick-or-treating in place, or will we be getting more along the lines of strong recommendations? Oh, and Todd's back. His kid's moving again.
Yeah.
I guess that's for Barrie and possibly Doug as well, possibly Kelly.
Yeah. I can say from the city's point of view, we're waiting for guidance from the medical officer of health. I don't know whether Halloween will be canceled. I can guarantee if it goes ahead, there'll be restrictions on, or strong suggestions on things like mask wearing, but we're still waiting for guidance from the medical officer of health.
Yeah, that's totally accurate. We're waiting for the medical professionals to, and just to remind people, the data that you're seeing when it goes live in terms of, or like what we're seeing happen in terms of numbers, that's all 2-week-old stuff, right? So there's always a delay in terms of numbers. So we're really watching closely to watch it. And it's not just the raw numbers. Like it's about how quickly this thing replicates. It's about percentage of positives off the test. There's a whole bunch of matrices that are looked at.
Perfect. All right. And again, respectful of everybody's time as we wind this down, we'll get into closing comments. We've already got John. So up next, our Attorney General, MPP, Barrie, Springwater, Oro-Medonte, Doug Downey.
Yeah, thanks again, Todd and Paul. It's good to see you, Kelly. My biggest decision today is which restaurant I'm going to support at lunch. You know, I'm really honestly trying to make an effort to get out and shop local, support local, you know, if you feel safe to do so. But yeah, it's critical. We have some local tourism happening. So look, offices open, people have questions, just get a hold of us. It'd be great.
Excellent. Thank you, Doug. Okay, up next, Deputy Mayor for the City of Barrie.
Hi, can you hear me? Yep. Okay.
Yeah, he's frozen again.
He's frozen again. I'll just use, first of all, thank you very much, Paul and Todd and fellow panelists. Thanks for the invitation again. Always great questions. I do have a chance to answer the question that was asked earlier. First of all, an announcement that earlier this week, it was announced that Rob Bell, who joined the city 7 years ago, is our new Recreation and Culture Director for the City of Barrie. So that's great news. And one of the reasons he got it is he's so prompt. I sent him an email when that question was asked about swimming pools, and he got back to me immediately. So the answer that he gave was that it's kind of a combination. They're asking people to show up ready to go in the pool. They can have their bathing suit on under their clothes. They can take their clothes off at the pool deck, keep their clothes there. When they come out of the pool, then they can go in the change room. There's not enough. They can't have people going out and into the pool at the same time. So it's completely one direction. So you wear your bathing suit under your clothes. You can change out of your wet bathing suit in the change rooms. So that's the answer.
Perfect.
Okay. That's it.
All right. Thank you. Up next. Oh, Downtown Barrie BIA, Kelly McKenna.
Yeah, thank you. So first one, thank you very much, everyone, for the invite today, and thank you to all of the guests who joined us for their interest. and hope to see you downtown on Saturday, any Saturday between now and October 17th. So come on down.
Great, thank you, Kelly. So in closing, thank you again for joining us and for the work you're doing in your businesses every day. Thank you for the work you've already done to flatten the curve and for your continued focus on protecting our community. Please continue to shop local, supporting our neighbors, family, friends with intentional purchasing choices. The Barrie Chamber is here to see you through this. Please feel free to email or call if you need anything else. And please join us for some upcoming online sessions. Tuesday, October 6th. How you say it? Archetypes in branding. How you say that, Paul? Something in branding with Paul.
Yeah, Paul Lars with archetypes and branding. Yeah.
Archetypes. Thank you. Then on Thursday, the 8th, working towards remote learning success with your kids. And Wednesday, the 14th, Chamber Chat at noon, Chamber Chat networking. And with that, thank you. Oh, Paul, one more.
Yeah, sorry, just wanted to say that on that Thursday one, working towards remote learning, that's more of a mental health one. We've got Empower Simcoe, TLC, Sue Cook from TLC, and somebody from Scholarly Elite, and it's actually going to be done and conducted by Sandy Tuckey, so it's going to be a much more attractive moderator than what you've been used to, so I just wanted to throw that in there. Thanks a lot. Thanks for coming.
And on that note, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you to our panelists. We appreciate you joining us every time that you're available and the input and what you bring. And what you guys do every day is very, very important and vital to the downtown Barrie, to the city of Barrie, to our legal aspect and everything else. So all of you, thank you very much. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Okay, stay safe. Hang in there.